You're listening to Media Monitor's Conversations That Can, a special series that we're dropping just this summer. Thanks for tuning in and listening to this week's Media Monitor's Conversations That Can. You're about to tune in and listen to our Chief Product Officer, Steve Silver's interview, Preeti Croke from Analytic Partners.
Hey, welcome to Media Monitor here in Cannes. I'm Steve Silvers, Chief Product Officer from Guideline, and with me is Preeti Croke from Analytic Partners. Preeti, how is your Cannes?
First of all, thanks for having me.
So, obviously we're here. We've been talking about AI all week. I have to imagine that out on the Quasset, you've been talking about AI. What is your AI talk track here in Cannes? Like, what are you guys talking about?
Yeah. So I think, Analytic Partners, we're a managed service. So we have a platform, of course. And really, we've been using AI, of course, everybody is. But we've been using it kind of really in a couple of ways. And really, it's all focused around how to drive quicker, faster value for our customers. So I'll talk about a couple of the ways that we're using it. There's many, of course. But the first is something we have called Ask Genome. So it's really all about accessibility. So in this case, accessibility of insights to our customers. So you can think about that as kind of going in and querying and getting kind of your insights at the tips of your fingers versus having to dig through different reports. And that's really kind of powered by our ROI genome, which is we kind of have mapped the genome of ROI is kind of what we say.
But is it really geno or genome?
Genome, yeah.
Like a DNA.
Yeah, like DNA,
Okay.
like the DNA of your ROI. And really it's what that is in real terms is kind of our 26 years of collective intelligence. So our domain knowledge. And
So
it's
like
really
a benchmarking
Yeah,
data
but
set.
it's more, so it's kind of more intelligently benchmarking. So it's based on a number of parameters that we know drive ROI. So say you're, Coca-Cola, maybe Coca-Cola is a bad idea. Big brands. You're a financial services company. You want to know like how high is high? How do I rank versus other companies in this space? Which country are we in? So it kind of takes different markers like, the amount of spend, the competitive landscape, the country that you're in, the industry that you're in to make kind of more of a intelligent
Right. So
benchmark.
everyone gets their own custom model, but you have knowledge and insights from all the years of experience that you have so that they can compare their custom model and their outcomes to what someone in their vertical could
Exactly.
expect.
So if we go back to Coca-Cola again, if you're a small soft drink entering the category, we wouldn't necessarily give you Coca-Cola as a benchmark because you're not. That doesn't make any sense, right? So it's more understanding what those nuances are so that you can better understand what you can do, how high is high, what are best practices. And that's all kind of, we're surfacing that through Ask Genome, which is our the AI component, which again is making those insights more accessible to people, and not just analysts, but also like finance leaders or commercial decisioning folks who can actually use the results for
a natural
action.
language tool.
Exactly, yeah. So that's one. The other one I'll talk about is decisioning AI. So that's more within our platform, you can run scenario planning and optimizations. So our platform is called GPS Enterprise, and our customers are using it every day. So there's thousands of optimizations and scenarios being run over time. So we have all of that kind of knowledge of what are types of scenarios being run or what are common things that folks are looking at. So we can actually surface common scenarios or things you might want to look at in terms of, changing market dynamics. And I think that's really important because we're seeing a shift away from just forecasting more to kind of scenario planning. So more multiple futures, especially with all of the things going on in the world today. You can't just have one number. You kind of need to understand how do you plan for different pieces.
There's a lot of uncertainty.
Exactly.
Right?
A lot of uncertainty. So I think with that, it's allowed our customers to very easily kind of go in and plan and kind of use common scenarios and learn from each other within the technology. So that's how AI is empowering us.
That sounds very cool. Now, just to step back for a minute, previously you were talking about ROI analysis, and obviously, or maybe not so obviously, sometimes ROI can be hard to define. You guys have done a bunch of research around trying to get the CMO buying center and the CFO buying center better aligned so that we can have better conversations about ROI. What can you tell me about that project?
Yeah. So we actually just launched, we've been doing a survey called the Commercial Decisioning Survey. So we've interviewed, I think it's 455 leaders in marketing, finance, and analytics, so kind of evenly split across. And there's some really cool findings. So what we're finding is there is alignment. It's getting closer, but it's not quite all the way there. So one thing we found, which I think is very interesting, is so marketing finance are and finance are working closer together. We know that. So less in isolation, but we have some agreement that marketing is a growth driver, which is great. But we're actually seeing that finance and analytics are saying that more often than marketing themselves. So,
you think marketing would be better at marketing what they do?
You think, yes. So that to us was that was a really interesting finding. The other thing that we're seeing is that when making investment decisions behind marketing, it's listed as one of the least data-driven, which is fascinating. Yes, across everybody that we interviewed. And this is not just our clients. This is more of a macro survey.
I'm just wondering why that is. I mean, we as an industry have been generating lots of data for a really long time. Like we're a big data industry.
Yeah. And I don't think it's a data problem.
Okay.
Definitely not a data problem. I think it's a common language problem. So shared language problem. So there's a credibility gap that I think we're seeing where they're aligned in practice, but the actual implementation is more challenging. And I think it's kind of getting alignment across those functions and bringing them closer together in terms of what outcome are we trying to drive? What data do we need to do that? So what's the data to make the decision? Not just getting data in a dashboard, but how do we actually use the data and how we get it in format to actually leverage it for results? And I think that's where the bridge is needed.
It's interesting. Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I was talking about with, I think it was on another podcast that I don't remember, is that a lot of times if you have a metric, you can optimize for that metric.
Yeah.
If you don't have absent a metric, it is hard to describe something as, I think we're talking about quality, right? You're talking about, it's hard to have quality as a metric. It's easy to have a number as a metric, but quality is hard. Is there a metric mismatch here? Are we optimizing on the wrong metric? Because if we used a different metric, would the CFO believe our models more if we optimize for something different?
I think it's less about what the CFO wants and more about what is can everybody align on what that is.
Right.
And that's where we've seen the most success with organizations is when they can align together on what is that goal that we're trying to hit. It could be multiple goals. It might be managing across multiple KPIs and weighting, but you really need to determine what that outcome is, or else you're never gonna. You can have all the best data in the world, but you're gonna not make the best decisions, right? So I think that's really it's the shared language. It's less of a data challenge and it's more of a change management challenge or an organizational challenge. I think
that's good. It's interesting that you bring that up, right? Because in my experience, having worked at measurement companies before, producing a report is easy, but socializing those results and getting the change management in the organization to change things could be really hard. Like you could tell people, so you're blue in the face that CTV is more efficient than linear, and you go every day. Everyone says great, and then the next year comes around and they don't move the money. They keep it where it is, right? So
our adoption issue too.
Yeah. So is this something that you guys at Analytic Partners are helping your customers with? Are you helping them shape their conversation to talk to the CFO in a way that they understand?
Yeah. So I think it's kind of a misunderstood topic in that it's not necessarily about the best dashboards or understanding exactly what's going on in the models, right? It's more about, again, kind of going back to that shared understanding, understanding your finance team knows modeling, right? They're forecasting, they're doing their own plans, they know how a model works. It's less about
they're probably better at math than we are.
It could be. I think it's more about understanding, can we all rally around this? We know that there's assumptions involved in any single model. There's no perfect model. No. There's just useful ones, right? So can we rally around what that shared understanding is, how we use the model results or the measurement results? And then also, can we know as a group across marketing, finance, analytics, when we use the results, when we challenge them, and how do we make real change? So I think it's more of that dynamic and getting on the same page. And we kind of find that it works best when you have finance in the room from the very beginning.
Right.
Because then you can actually talk in those terms. You can get their questions. You can discuss as a team. And actually getting them in the technology and using and scenario planning and leveraging, you can actually tie it together with their own forecasts. So their model uses a forecast. You can agree, maybe we connect the two and we have better assumptions from this model because we're controlling for all these non-marketing factors, or we have more data in the model and that sort of piece. So I think it's not necessarily data literacy or dashboards or model. It's just coming together on something we can trust and use, and then knowing when to challenge and when to when to.
So a common understanding.
Common understanding.
That makes
yes,
sense.
exactly.
So, for people that are trying to put a measurement regime in place, like, is that your best practice now? Is a recommendation that it's not just a marketing activity, that it is marketing and finance and analytics together? And are you making that part of a best practice as you interact with clients going forward?
Yeah, 100%. So we actually don't even call it marketing mix modeling at Analytic Partners. We call it commercial analytics because we really believe you have to measure everything that's going on in your ecosystem, whether it's marketing, whether it's gas price changes, whether there's a war in the Middle East. Like, those are all important things you need to control for and understand and plan against. And you know yourself, like, the marketing only drives sometimes 10 to 20% of the business. So that 80% you really need to know,
right,
in order to understand what you need to do with that 20%.
Right. Some of that's brand, some of that's organic. The first thing I saw when I walked up to the shelf, it's kind of hard to pull those apart sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this was super interesting. Thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'll see you out there on the Quasset.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to also subscribe and listen to our Wednesday podcast, Media Monitor, where we go deep on trends, look into the data, and try to understand where the media market's going.